Ladies and gentlemen, we have something special for you today. Last time I recorded with this man, we had such a great conversation. It was very important. And the problem is one of the cameras shut off. And so I released it in audio, but I was never able to capture video. So I was like, listen, you have to come back. And people that listen to the podcast, because when I told them that I had this guest here, people were like, I want to listen to that one. So people went and listened to the audio. But man, and I felt so bad that I didn't have a video version. So I bought a new camera, thanks to this person. But I want you guys to know who I have here today. Reuben Perez. He's a PhD candidate, sociology candidate, Dominicano, Latino. And you're mostly focused on housing, right? Or
a few things, but mostly housing. But I've done research on like race, ethnicity, and the Dominican Republic and the U.S., immigration. But like right now, more recently, housing, New York City.
Well, I want to keep bringing people that are studying this, that are becoming experts within these fields and having intellectual conversations. Today, we're going to have a conversation about anti-intellectualism, within our community. Things are happening right now and how's it affecting us and how can we better everything? All right. So I'm excited. Reuben, thank you for coming back. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Also, plugging the episode that we did do because it's still on Spotify and other platforms. So definitely go back and listen to it because I think like there's tons of gems that like Gadiel dropped and that we talked about. So, it's definitely worth like listening even after you sort of watch this. This video.
Let's go right to it. What I want to know is when, one thing I notice is that every time I talk to somebody that's studying sociology, right? Why is it a lot of them, all of them, have like this negative thing when it comes to capitalism? We're going to come out swinging. We're going to come back.
Yeah, this is a great question. I don't know if it's a tough question, but it could be a tough question, but it's a good question. As an important question. I think even thinking about like the current mayoral race and how like these different like systems of like the economic systems were at the forefront of conversations. Socialism, capitalism, all these different things. I think as sociologists, we look at patterns in society, and as sociologists, like we do research to understand why these patterns happen and why we see these patterns. And within like the capitalist system, we see that there's tons of inequality across gender, inequality across race. And then we ask why. Like why are these things happening? Is it a matter of just capitalism itself doesn't work? Is it a matter of so many different things?
So you guys are answering these questions like we see a divide, like an extreme divide right now.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, why is the divide happening?
Yeah. So I think those are the kind of initial, like as a sociologist, when you're kind of like trying to understand, this is how we come up with projects. Usually you want to see something, an outcome that is odd or interesting or fascinating or something you wouldn't expect to happen. Because oftentimes, let's say in a capitalist system and society, people often say, well, or they're taught to believe that if you work hard, you will succeed.
Yes.
That it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whatever barriers are in front of you.
That you're going to make it. But
exactly.
I think like they tell everyone that everyone can make it in a sense. Like they paint a picture of like, yes, everybody's going to be on top.
Yes. And all you have to do is like lift yourself up from the bootstraps, right? And if you're not working hard enough, that's why you're not failing. That's why you're failing.
Yeah.
You just have to work hard and just focus on yourself and continue climbing and kind of ignore whatever barriers that you think are in front of you because that's just an excuse. I think that's kind of gaslighting.
Yeah. It is gaslighting. It's like a form of propaganda, basically.
Yeah, and so like as a sociologist or even anyone, I think like when you start thinking, and I think I've always been very curious at a young age. I'm a Gemini moon, and like we are always thinking.
You're a Gemini?
Gemini moon. I'm a Cancer sun, Gemini moon.
Cancer sun. Okay.
Gemini moon, Virgo rising. But I've always been very curious about why things happen and why things. So in terms of capitalism, like we were taught to believe. If you work hard, then you will make it. You will succeed. You will become a billionaire, whatever, a millionaire. But then if you look at the data, you're like, okay, why are white people able to accumulate way more wealth than black people? Why are men able to accumulate way more wealth
than women?
Right? And all these other divisions in society, you could say that. So it just doesn't make sense.
Why do you
right?
think? Why do you think?
So the logical
Yeah.
reason or excuse, which a lot of like right-wing podcasters and like conservatives use, is that, well, these people are just lazy.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like so dependent on government handouts that they just don't work hard. And they're intrinsically maybe unintelligent, or maybe biologically white people and other groups are a bit more superior, and that literally people are saying that today. So, and I want to say that why this
And they always said that either way.
and I want to say why this is important,
Okay.
because it deflects. It deflects any critique of the system. And these narratives are important because you want people to believe that this system works.
Yeah.
So these narratives are especially important to convince the population that this system is valid, it is legitimate, and people are just like lazy, and people maybe are just like inferior. They don't, they're not as intelligent as other folks. Maybe they don't work as hard.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about economic system, we also talk about like the narratives that help to justify its continuation or its legitimacy.
Okay.
And as sociologists, we also look at that. Okay, so we see like, we see these like these systems of inequality. We see like, okay, we live in a capitalist system, and there's so much racial inequality, and there's so much gender inequality, so much other types of inequalities. Yet people still believe in it. And I think that's the important question. Like, why do people still believe in it, right?
Yeah, because we also see, like, I even met poor people going like, they're just lazy. Why I'm like paying their food stamps and stuff like that, right? And if you think about it, like I think to even make it is a slim chance, no matter how hard you're working, right? It's like I feel like I see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I see it as a race, right? You know, and there's some people that have advantages, right? There's some people that are born with two parents in the household that they come from the good community. Like their parents bought a house and they were able to give that house to their offsprings. But there's some people that didn't have that. You know what I mean? They're in the race without shoes. They're in the race with a rope tied behind them. You know, it doesn't mean that they can't win the race, but they're at a disadvantage. That's how I see it.
Like, right? There's no level playing field.
There's no level playing field.
And I think people kind of just ignore that, right?
Yeah.
Or people say, well, another thing about the narratives are important, right? So there's no level playing field. I just want to quickly talk about, like, the African-American case, right? Think about enslavement. They think about, like,
the redlining.
Jim Crow. Segregation. Redlining.
Yeah.
So there was always one thing after another that kind of, like,
affected the Black community.
Exactly, from like accumulating wealth.
Yes.
Right? Or in a way that matched non-Black people, specifically white people. And oftentimes, but the thing about like these narratives is important is because, like, in order to instill hope in people that this does work, is that you need to let some people through. You need to let some people through.
You need some people to win.
Yes, you need some people in these situations to win. And then they're given a platform, and they're given like, see, this person made it. You're just lazy. So why can this person
why can
make
this
it?
person do it, but
right?
you can't?
And I think like, and you think about like the Asian minority myth, right? Oftentimes when we talk about like, oh, there's so much disadvantage that like, and white people have so much privilege, right? For whatever, so much privilege. You see like conservatives, Republicans, white folk, even people of color, they're often like, well, what explains Asians' sort of success?
Yeah, it's
in
true,
the US,
because
right?
I think Indians are like the most like successful minority, like the richest minority group, right? Why is that then? Why is that happening?
Even
then?
Nigerians, they're the group with the highest like level of like
education,
income too, like in the US, Indians, Nigerians, these other ethnic minorities. But before I answer that question, I think again, it's important to sort of like, one, you're pitting groups against each other, right?
Okay.
You're saying like, well,
these guys could do it.
These guys could do it, so why can't you?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a problem with you. You're not working hard, and that keeps us sort of like the imagination or this like hope alive. Like, yeah, you know what? They're right. I just have to continue working hard. That's why you get buy-in, right? And to answer your question about why, you have to understand the history of migration. You have to understand the history of like the U.S.'s relationship with different countries and groups globally.
Yeah.
Think about what Asian populations were allowed to even come in. Like in the 60s, oftentimes it was skilled Asians,
Mm-hmm.
Asians with already advanced degrees,
Yeah.
or enough money like to start a business.
HB1
right?
visas.
Right. This was like the elite, the creme of the creme.
Yeah.
How are they gonna flop?
Yeah. That's true.
They already have high educations. They had sought after skills.
Mm-hmm.
They already know how to navigate higher education, and they already know how to sort of like mobilize or access resources.
Yeah.
So it's, yes, I'm not saying that, not discounting that they still experience racism, but they were equipped with the tools and skill set already to thrive.
Yeah, because right now, like in other countries, they have like a intellectual exodus crisis happening. You know,
A brain drain.
a brain drain, especially like
brain drain.
in Dominican,
India and different countries,
India,
right?
even in Dominican Republic, we're dealing with that.
So I don't want to say, because there's also like inequalities in these other countries. Because again, like who is leaving, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's not like everyone in the population is like
Yeah.
highly educated middle class. No,
No.
it's like the middle class and the highly educated from these populations.
Yeah.
And the same you can say about like Nigerians and people from other groups. But I think it helps sort of like legitimate capitalism and helps legitimate these hierarchies.
So you're saying is like is disingenuous to compare and like
Yes.
compare these groups because these are not even the same people we're talking about.
Yes. They come in with like different resources, different backgrounds, and they just encounter different circumstances,
Yeah.
right? Different circumstances. They live in different neighborhoods in many cases too,
True.
right? They often move into like more resource neighborhoods.
So
Think
what-
about-
so what you're saying is that capitalism in a way is like selling this theory that everybody's gonna make it. Like everybody could do it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like when I was like a teenager, I was like, I'm gonna be a millionaire. ¿Tú entiendes? Tú dices, yeah, but you grow old, y dices, pero esos millones que yo quería, ¿verdad? And I do notice. I remember I used to read a lot of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I remember going to college, bro. And I remember I did a presentation and I said that people don't need to go to college. I don't need to go to college so I could become rich, because there was a lot of things that I was reading that was against education. And I was like, even at that time, I was like so against education, right? I got into the Navy. When I left the Navy, I went to like University of Phoenix. But me, I'm 38 years old right now. And now I'm thinking about like, oh, wait a minute. Education is super important. I want a master's degree, right? And I feel like I spent all these years being anti-intellectual. And I feel like there was a massive propaganda at that time, even to this day, about anti-intellectualism. You see what I mean? So basically, you're basically saying that capitalism, in a way, had to sell these people this dream that you're going to be making. And that's one thing I noticed, that I think in America, we put billionaires on the top like they're royalty. They can't do no wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And I also see that they're right now we see the most billionaires we've ever seen before. And this has happened before. That during the times of Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, these were the top dogs and they were fighting for the number one position. But I think at that time, that's when we had like a little revolution. Like Theodore Roosevelt came in, FDR. You could correct me if I'm wrong, right? FDR came in, and that's when we got like Social Security. You know what I'm saying? So what do you see happening today? What do you think is the answer? Do you think there's something else that's good for America, or like what's the answer to like solve that?
It's hard. I think like, I don't know if there's one solution,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think there will be one solution.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's difficult to kind of for a country to operate smoothly
Mm.
and to people be in alignment with like the direction when there's like almost 400 million people here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's problem number one.
Mm-hmm.
I think people have different desires, wishes, and all that stuff, and interests. And it's hard for us to like work to be in unison or to be in alignment when there's so many people that's like under like the jurisdiction of like the U.S. government or the nation state. And I think that's one. I think not everything is going to work for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, if we sort of implement a system in our society, I think like other people are going to be really upset, right? And maybe it's not serving that, maybe not in line with their values, or maybe for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's all to say that we need smaller groups, I think.
Yeah.
We need and then these smaller groups have their own systems of governance
Mm-hmm.
in a way that, like, in that way, it'll operate a bit more smoothly. But more broadly, I think that I don't want to say like we need another system. I think people have to transform how they think about themselves and transform
Yeah.
how they think about the society and the government, and really unlearn everything that they have been taught to believe to be true. And I think a lot of people are not there yet.
Mm-hmm. And then why is it whether a lot of Latinos are coming from different countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a negative thing when it comes to socialism. What is socialism, basically?
I don't think I'm the expert for this, but essentially socialism, I'll say compared to capitalism, is like the government kind of controls the means of productions and shares it with the population. And think about like what Zoran is proposing, that those are components of socialism, but he's still operating within a capitalist framework, like free buses.
Yeah.
And just like think about government services that are free or reduced.
Yeah.
That's given to the population. And to answer your question about like why there's like a resistance to that embrace, I think it goes back to the narratives about socialism that exists here in the US and globally.
Yeah.
Oftentimes people like are also like pointing to communism. They're kind of conflating communism and socialism.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to define what each are.
Yeah.
That there's enough information about that. But I think what's more important is about like how people are taught to think about these things, especially in the US. Oftentimes, think about the Cuba case, and I had conversations even yesterday with someone, and often, all the time, and think about the recent mayoral race, people are saying, well, they don't believe Zoran is going to be a good mayor because they don't think his plans are feasible, and we all know like socialism and communism, whatever, they always fail, and they point at Cuba and Venezuela. And I think those are unfair statements.
Yeah, because we're also like negating the effect that America did to these countries.
American intervention.
And American interventions, the sanctions that they imposed on Venezuela so they could have the people rise up and and debacle their government. Same thing that they did with Cuba and with the embargo.
Exactly. And for some reason, there's like an historical amnesia there.
Yes.
Right, that people are not really understanding. And I think some people know that, but they're like, well, it doesn't matter. They kind of move the goalpost.
Yes.
Which goes into your anti-intellectualism point, right?
Yeah.
So I think the problem is that people are also constantly moving the goalpost when you challenge their ideas.
Yes.
And that's hard, right?
Yeah.
How can you sort of engage with people meaningfully in good faith when they're constantly moving the goalpost?
That's true.
And I think like that's even reinforced when you're having conversations on social media, because like there's this sort of distance between you and the person. And in many cases, there's some sort of anonymity where saying you're in the comments like fighting for your life with someone, which I think is a waste of time.
Yeah.
But maybe someone will see that comment and change their mind.
Yeah.
But people could just like turn off their phones and then go straight on their day, and they're still receiving. They're still like sort of they're still receiving the messages.
Yeah.
That's kind of making them believe that like capitalism is better, good, whatever, in the spaces that they occupy, whether that's a barbershop, whether that's in a family setting, where that's because they're barely ever getting sort of like counter narratives.
Yeah.
Maybe on social media, right?
Yeah.
So, and many people operate in silos, right? So those like ideas are then reinforced in the spaces that they're in.
Yeah. It's an echo chamber.
Exactly, it's an echo chamber, especially in barbershops. I was in the barbershop and
you laugh because you're like,
yeah.
I could picture you sitting in the barbershop. You're like, God damn, these people are slow.
It's like what I hear in the conversations. It's a bit.
It's frustrating.
It is frustrating, but I understand why they think that way. Because again, it's an echo chamber, and they're not really receiving like counter narratives in a way that's productive or in a consistent way.
Yeah.
Right, because they don't need to. Right, the algorithm kind of feeds them certain information.
Yeah.
And information is also so decentralized because of the algorithm. People just get people see what they want to see.
Yeah.
And then when they're in these barbershops, these same ideas are being reproduced.
Yeah.
And then people are creating...
And nobody's challenging.
Exactly. And then they create an emotional bond, right? Especially men. They create an emotional bond around these ideas. But they have some sort of emotional connection from these ideas. That's how men bond through these ideas. And so then when they hear someone sort of saying something that challenges that, which already they had developed an emotional connection to it, they're going to be very resistant, especially online.
Yeah.
But I think like there's
But also people are like, I have to stay consistent to the way they identify themselves, right?
You know what I think you brought a great point, and I think a lot of it has to do with like people will then start questioning
Their identity
and who they are.
and who they are.
And that's very scary
That's scary.
because it's very scary.
It's very scary. Yeah, because if you think about it, like, if you think about like yeah, you could be, it's okay to be a conservative. It's okay to be, liberal. But when when you go like, I'm a Trump supporter, you're saying that my identity is attached to this man. So anything that you say negative about this man, you're challenging my identity, right? So calling yourself a supporter of anyone, I believe, could be very dangerous, because this person could do you harm, and you will going against whatever this person decides. It goes against your identity.
It goes, and why people like don't want to sort of like confront that. I mean, I guess there's an ego death there, and people are afraid. And I think like it's about belonging. I think a lot of it is about belonging. I think like once they start questioning these ideas about themselves, they start questioning their connections. And many cases, and I want to bring up a sociological study about fracking.
Yeah.
Many cases, they're more concerned about severing the ties that they created that were based off of these ideas. So they rather sort of like keep those connections intact rather than deconstruct those ideas themselves and kind of like figure out who they are outside of like what society told them who to be and what ideas are true and legitimate. And I want to bring up a fracking study in sociology where there was this like mining company that went to Pennsylvania, and they were offering people who lived in this town to mine their land in order to extract like oil and gas and all these different things. And many people agreed to it because it aligned with their conservative values of freedom, and they're able to make sort of like decisions that could benefit them economically, and they could do that within a capitalist system. So that's why they like capitalism. And so they agreed to that regardless of what the consequences, the negative consequence of that, meaning like a lot of these gas kind of could seep into their home and contaminate their water source, which started happening. So some people's water source was contaminated. And keep in mind, these are like kind of Republican conservative towns. And a lot of folks whose water source was contaminated, they didn't want to say anything. They don't want to make a lot of noise. Because once they start making noise, they're going to start associated with like being too liberal or being leftist or being radical. And then that's going to sort of, which these are actions, these are things associated with like Democrats and all that stuff. Like, And
wow.
So they were afraid to sort of like
say anything.
because they would potentially lose or like just sever those bonds they have with their community.
Wow.
So they dealt with that.
Wow.
Contaminated stuff in there.
Contaminated stuff. Wow. It's like I must just so I could stay with my group. Like even though this is her, this is so weird because like sometimes a lot of times I think about like our people, where we come from, right? Man, I could imagine being a Taino, bro, and then those ships come through, and you're like, diablo, esta gente ya no va a cambiar todo. It's gonna like we like being a descendant of a Dominican descendant, right? Yeah, I love my country. When I go to a campo, I see how people are living a lifestyle, right? Like community. I see community. And people come here in the United States because they want a certain dream, right? And capitalism does offer us a lot of great things, right? Like, like probably like, but is also at the same time where we see the mundane of people's lives. People are waking up, they're going to work at 9 to 5. Your whole day is gone. You come back home, and then you got to wake up the next day to do the same thing over and over again. And it's just like, it does feel like it's modernized slavery, bro. You see what I'm saying? It's like, what would like? Sometimes I think about like, man, did we get fooled into something, right? And I know that we need money so we can eat, but I'm like, a lot of times these fruits, all we need is all I need is a cow.
Yeah.
All I need is a cow. All I need is some frutas,
Mm.
some plátanos, and some eggs, and I'll be
Mm.
happy, right?
Mm.
But it's like coming out here, I see people's like they came over here for a dream, especially as an immigrant. And the majority of the people, they're just working to death. Their years go by. They're like, coño, ¿qué fue lo que yo hice este año?
I also want to say that dream thing. I also think that's a myth in some cases because, like, if you look at why, okay, in the Dominican case, why are Dominicans here? It wasn't because
Mm-hmm.
they is left. Oh, I want a better economic opportunities, so I'm gonna sort of just pack up and leave,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, it was U.S. intervention. We were literally
Gotcha.
taken away,
No way.
right? We were taken from our place. We're robbed. We were robbed of our land and of our culture to some extent,
Mm.
right? Of living in the Caribbean because of U.S. intervention,
Why is
right?
that? How did that happen? Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, look at you. Yeah. I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people watching right now that they want to know.
um, Essentially, it was because when Trujillo was assassinated,
Mm-hmm.
Juan Bosch was like the up and coming person, and I think he won like kind of the informal elections. I think it happened in 1962,
Mm-hmm.
and the U.S. was not about that because it threatened U.S. interests. Because again, he was labeled as a socialist, and
Mm-hmm.
the elites in the Dominican Republic didn't like that because it also threatened their wealth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the elites and the U.S. kind of were in cahoots. So like, ooh, girl, like this is not working for us,
Yeah,
right?
gotcha.
And they didn't want the U.S. to become another Cuba, right? That's what they were saying. They didn't want the U.S. to become another Cuba, and they're kind of just started labeling this like this new sort of regime as like this up and coming communist nation that's gonna sort
Mm.
of like ruin the country and then potentially sort of infiltrate the U.S. and Latin America like a disease.
Yeah,
And we know that didn't work in Cuba. We know that's not working. So like,
yeah,
why are we gonna let it persist?
yeah.
And so essentially, they incited sort of this is like civil war,
Mm.
right? And the U.S. won, or the U.S. and Dominican elites won, where Balaguer was, who was the U.S. backed. Balaguer was U.S. backed. I'm glossing over so much details, and I have a video about that on my page. So just watch that one.
Okay.
So Balaguer won the.
Well, you could tell. You gotta let us know. You could, if you want to tell us details, so be it. Don't matter.
Well, but essentially, Balaguer won the 1966 election, and people say it was like question whether or not that was legitimate, anyways, because like in many cases the people didn't want that. The
Mm-hmm.
people wanted bullshit. The people wanted sort of change.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard. Is it true that when Juan Bosch was president, like the pesos, Dominican pesos, were like almost equivalent to the dollar?
that's information I don't have, and I'm curious. And someone could maybe put that in the comments when they see this. But
Okay.
I'm curious to know if that's true. I didn't do too.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a Dominican scholar like that, but I know some stuff.
That's what my father did tell me that
Uh-huh.
he did tell me that when Juan Bosch became president, the United States didn't like it because economically we're doing better, and then the U.S. came over here and intervened. But I'm like, I want. So there was a civil war after that.
Yeah, there was like civil infighting, right, between the, kind of like the Bosch faction and the Balaguer faction.
Uh-huh.
Those
And
who were supporting Bosch and those who were supporting
so there
Balaguer.
were like a little civil war, killing everything. Like,
Yes, essentially. And I mean, Balaguer, in the 1966 election, eventually Balaguer prevailed
mm-hmm.
in a very suspicious manner, people think or believe. But after that, there was two things, right? There was a huge population in the Dominican Republic that was like discontented. They were just like, they didn't like the result, those pro-Bush factions, that they were like, yo, we don't want this shit. Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And so they were concerned that they might sort of stir kind of another uprising.
Yeah.
And the second thing was like, there was a lot of like unemployment in the Dominican Republic. So that would then fuel more frustration.
You gotcha.
Right? So that it threatened the regime, the Balaguer regime, and more broadly, U.S. empire, and capitalism. So what they did. They like, okay, we got to get the fuck out of here.
So they left.
No, they gave them visas and all that stuff to come to the U.S., right? To work in
Gotcha.
factories and all that, and sold them a dream like, here, come to the U.S. for more economic opportunities and all that stuff. Which is right. They did go for more economic opportunities, but it's a bit deeper than that, right? Right?
It's like,
It's a bit deeper than that.
and what's the deeper part? What's the deeper?
I mean, it was about like, what kind of like system do we want to establish in the U.S.?
Gotcha.
It's not in the U.S., but in the Dominican Republic. And the people wanted a more socialist system.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Dominican elites. And that threatened capitalism, right? So it was more about that fundamentally, right? That's why the U.S. backed Balaguer. That's why the U.S. didn't want to back Bush.
Didn't the U.S. put together like labor camps in Dominican Republic, something like that?
Again, not an expert, but someone put that in the comments. I'm very curious. Talk to me about housing. But yeah, I think that's and something I want to look into it. But I think I'm looking at a perspective, and some people might have a different thing. But I think like it's more about like what system we want to sort of implement, and what system do we want people to believe, to endorse, right?
Gotcha.
And it was to the U.S.'s favor and the Dominican elite's favor to allow Dominicans to go to the U.S. because then if they didn't do that, it would threaten the current establishment. It would incite maybe another uprising. So that was very strategic of them, right?
Of course,
because you're separating sort of the population. You're diffusing it, kind of a way to diffuse.
And that's how Dominicans ended up in New York City.
Yeah. Yes. For
But
the most part.
How come it's mostly like Campo Dominicans that came over here though?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know how true that is. I think there's a lot of professionals that came.
Yeah.
I think a lot of professionals also came during so it depends what wave.
Yeah, gotcha.
What 80s, 90s, different waves, like 60s, you probably see more educated Dominicans, more professionals, and then like 70s, 80s, 90s, you see folks, not exclusively, but a lot of folks from like lower income backgrounds, lower levels of education.
I got a question. I do have a question for you. You're studying sociology especially when it comes to housing. What is something that you would like people to know about that you're studying?
About sociology.
With your sociology, because you say you're mostly focused on housing, and is it housing disparity? Because I know there has been a lot of propaganda saying that Latinos are affecting housing, that the immigrants are affecting housing, and this is what the issue is. So I know the Latino community is being blamed for housing in the United States of America.
Can you tell me more about that?
Can I tell you more about that?
Yeah, what do you mean Latino population is?
Well, they're trying to say that illegal immigrants, the reason why housing is so expensive because of the illegal immigrants.
So capitalism has cracks.
Yeah.
And we talked about that.
Yeah.
And because it's not a perfect system. Actually, in the U.S., it's terrible. It breeds so much inequality and reinforces and entrenches inequality. And I mentioned before, like, they still need people to believe that it works.
Mm-hmm.
So they need scapegoats. How can they sort of cover up these cracks? And who are we going to use to scapegoat? There's different people all the time.
All the time.
Immigrants taking our jobs. They're stealing housing.
Yeah.
What immigrant is taking a job?
Yeah.
Like, are y'all working in the farms, picking strawberries, berries, milking the cows? Like,
let me tell you, I don't believe that there's supposedly because of illegal immigration or immigrants that there's a housing crisis, which it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you mean to tell me that immigrants are buying more houses than the average American? To be honest with you, if you really think about it consciously, it doesn't make any freaking sense. But the propaganda is so strong that to them is like, yo, that makes sense, right? And I think it's because the whole thing with Venezuelans coming to New York and the hotels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was also used within the propaganda, right?
Yeah.
But the housing crisis has to deal with house buying and how expensive things are.
Yes, it has to do. It's so interconnected, and you can't reduce the housing crisis to New York City. The housing crisis in New York City is connected to global systems.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, New York City doesn't operate in a silo. It's like a global city.
Yeah.
Right? People are moving to New York City from all over the world.
All over the world.
Right? And people are moving to New York City because of like international sort of like economic forces and different things happening globally. Right? Like the tech boom is shaping people move, like is maybe motivating people to move everywhere. So it's like so many different factors.
Yeah.
That's like creating sort of this housing crisis. And I love how you brought up the idea of affordability, and that's the thing, right? Wages aren't going up, but housing or rents are, right? And I do want to go back. Sorry. I think what's important about sociology, right? Before I mention, 'cause I want to bring this point. What's important about sociology is that we ask, whether it's housing, whether it's rate, whether it's education, we ask why people continue to buy into these myths and narratives. Like, why? We know, we see these things, we see these cracks, we see inequality
with data.
But yes, why? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
And that's when you have a project, a study. Like, once you know that something is not adding up.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to sort of understand. Like, why we analyze like inequalities generally, we do. But we also ask another question: why are these inequalities there? Like, and why do people? We talk about these narratives. Okay, we see the narratives here. What are these narratives doing? And they're telling people XYZ. Okay, people are believing these narratives. In many cases, for belonging, right? Because they subscribe to these narratives, not only because they don't know. Yes, it's the case that like they haven't been exposed to alternative narratives, or maybe those alternative narratives aren't as powerful or pervasive and less insidious. But also believing that these narratives is how they belong, right? How they belong, right? That's like at the root of many things, not exclusively.
It's like it feels like there's a chain of it all.
Yes, right. And that's the thing. Once you learn sociology, you see the bullshit and everything.
Wow.
And it's just like everything starts clicking. Like, oh, yeah, I see that. Okay.
And it's also like I think we also live in an age that they don't care about data anymore.
Yes.
That data is not important. Facts is not important, and my feelings are.
Yes, and I want to tell you, great example. I used to do like TikTok videos. I did do research on Dominicans at one point, and Dominican racial identity, like racial inequality in the Dominican Republic, and had a video. I did videos talking about that, showing data. To be clear, the Dominican National Census, like they don't collect data, but there's like third parties, like researchers that do collect data on the DR, racial data.
Okay.
But not the census. I think they maybe changed that recently. But yeah, so I just want to be clear on that. So there are people collecting data on race in the DR, and I have like discussed these data on TikTok. Hey, there seems to be inequality based on skin color in the Dominican Republic.
Of course.
Right? And then even if I show them these articles, this data, people are just so reluctant to accept it. Again, the goalpost is moving. They're proposing an American agenda.
Yeah.
This is a Western agenda.
This is a woke agenda.
You don't know. This is a woke. You're a CUNY educated, woke Haitian lover. Actually,
that's exactly what they do.
I need that on a shirt because I am, actually. I embrace that shit. And the goalpost is always moving. And it goes back to anti-intellectualism because, like, even if you present the data and facts, what do you do? What do you do in those moments, right? I think sometimes you got to leave those people behind. But also understand that, like, be ready to receive them when they're finally ready to sort of
it's not even worth arguing with these people.
Sometimes it's not, especially online. And that's why sometimes it's better to have conversations in person. I think, like, again, it's going back to the anonymity piece where like people could talk without like no one knowing who they are, and they could send you a DM threatening you and all these different things. Like, they could just like, there's like no healthy, productive confrontation on social media.
None.
At all. So like, yes, it's important to sort of like provide the facts and even like counter some of the arguments that are there, because maybe someone might read it, but you need to have these conversations in person, right? Have these conversations with your barber in these barbershops. Have these conversations with your family, but first have these conversations with yourselves. And I think a lot of people.
How many times? You know how many times I talk to a barber or talk to somebody, but like, yo, and I provide them facts and all this extra stuff, and it's like talking to the wall. Right. And I think that has a lot to do with cognitive dissonance. And the thing is that a lot of times when you provide somebody with factual information or data, what they do is I feel like it does the contrary. They fall more into their beliefs and their value, even though it contradict the cognitive dissonance. Right. And that's what it does. It's just like, I could provide data to you. You're like, but they won't be like, oh, you know what? Oh, I didn't think about this data. Okay, and it's okay to do. Like if you I'm a type of person be like, yo, you provide me with data that this is factual. I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look into it. That makes sense because I want the truth.
Yeah.
But I think with cognitive dissonance, they're like, nah, I'm a figure out a way to turn this data and flip it around. And I've seen so many times I'm pretty sure you've seen people use data all in the wrong way so like that it could constitute and reinforce their beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say something about what is the role of people who have this knowledge information, because there's something I have seen. Because yes, I think sometimes we have to decide whether or not it's worth engaging with people who just like have no interest or desire to see the data or even look into it, understand it. But I think there's also a role that people who have that information should be playing. And I think sometimes they do, and I think it is true, they do isolate folks who don't know
Mm-hmm.
by saying, just Google it, right? Or you're dumb, right? Or being very, we live in a very carceral system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people often punish those who don't say the correct things,
Mm.
especially those from academia, those within like elitist like
Mm-hmm.
spaces who have high education. I don't think is that they mean to do that. Maybe they do. Maybe they're indoctrinated to like punish and like,
Mm-hmm.
you're canceled. You're not worthy. You don't belong in our society. We're moving forward, right?
Yeah,
Whatever. Hold your peace. And I think that there's moments where that's valid,
yeah.
but there's also moments, there's people who actually want to learn. And I think like there's ways for us to engage them that's a bit more productive. And I want to quote Carl Sagan, who says like, you have to like temper criticism with kindness. No one comes fully equipped. And I think that's something important to
Oh,
keep in
that's deep.
mind.
Carl Sagan.
Yeah, that's something important to keep in mind when you're engaging with these people, because like you also want to invite them into the movement. You want to invite them to critically reflect because they want to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes when being canceled or being sort of like alienated, ostracized from society, when they know that's a consequence, they're not going to engage with you authentically and in good faith.
Mm.
So, and that's something I had to learn. And I think like it's hard.
It's
right?
hard. It's hard because I also see a lot of people like, when I see like intellectuals
Mhm.
and I notice that they do not engage.
Mm.
Like very smart people that got their PhDs or whatever, doctors or stuff like that. Like even I see Neil deGrasse Tyson, right?
Mhm.
I just see them when somebody says something off the wall or something that's incorrect, factually
Mhm.
incorrect. Sometimes they just don't engage,
Yeah.
right? And there's a saying. Well, this is Mark Twain. Right? You don't argue with a fool because they'll bring down you. They bring you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Mm. Wow.
You got the scientist.
Yeah.
I got the comedian.
Yeah, I think the experience piece is valid, but facts are facts at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
I'm bringing you facts, and because oftentimes, like people who like debate the facts, they often draw from anecdotal. Well, my brother,
My brother,
my
yeah.
mom, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. The data is showing that at the societal level, at the national level, at the scale of the whole world, that's not true.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to touch back on anti-intellectualism because you made a video.
Yeah.
You made a video on your
Oh yeah.
on your social media like and it performed so well because it's true.
Yeah.
Right? So what is one thing that do you feel like I think we had this conversation on the podcast before, right?
Mhm.
And sadly, my camera wasn't working.
Mhm.
So what there is an attack on anti-intellectualism
Mhm.
is happening a lot within our community, right? How is that affecting us today?
How is anti-intellectualism impacting us today? I think is not allowing us to see each other as fully human and engage with each other compassionately. Because I think there's something going on both sides. And I think I mentioned sometimes there's an elitism
Mm.
happening from those who know these things, who have the facts. But I also think they're valid in kind of like engaging with the other folks in a very short way. But I think there should be a line that we shouldn't cross
Mm.
where we're kind of like veering too into like when we're too carceral.
Mm.
and we want to cancel people. We want to alienate them, isolate them. Do some people deserve that? I don't. Maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that shouldn't be the immediate response.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other end, it's like folks, they don't even want to see the data. They don't want to engage with it. In many cases, as I mentioned to you before, they're in echo chamber, right? They're not exposed to
Yeah.
alternative ways of thinking about the world, alternative systems. And they do have an emotional attachment to these ideas because they have bonded with other people via these ideas. And also the other side, that happens with the other side too.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't want to risk severing those ties because those ties, that belonging, gives them security in the world. And I think social media just reinforces
Their beliefs with the
their beliefs
algorithm.
and the echo chamber, and reinforces like how we treat each other in a very carceral way because we don't know each other. We're just
That's
speaking
true.
to each other through the screen.
That's true.
And I think, you know what? I think maybe you shouldn't be wasting your time too much on talking, like speaking, not yelling at each other. Speak to people who you have connections with, who actually who you're actually accountable to, and who's accountable to you. That's your neighbor. That's your community member. That's where you really should be focusing your energy and efforts.
But we're also seeing like the government itself like being very anti-intellectual. Like right now they want to defund the Department of Education.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of books. They're already getting rid of books in so many different places. A lot of studies that we had when it came to trans studies, they got rid of all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and it happened before. It happened before during the Hitler times, right? Yeah. You know, he was against he was anti-intellectual. He was against the intellectual people. They burned books. They got rid of books. They got rid of education, right? And I think that, you know, people are hurting right now. People are hurting. And every time the economy hurts, people become more nationalistic, and they like it is always blaming the other person, just like Hitler did to the Jew, right? So I think we're seeing that even to this day. It's like, okay, it's purposely want to make these people not know anything. What is it that you don't want me to know? Right? Maybe is it better? Does it benefit you to keep people stupid? That's what it is. Because if people start studying and they realize, hold on, wait a minute, statistics is showing that this is not working.
Yeah.
What we got to come together and be like, hey man, this is what's gonna benefit the average person.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up, and I want to just say that there's also a relationship between that, the government, and also like these corporations, tech giants, who are also fueling the anti-intellectualism by coming out with videos and having podcasts and appearing in podcasts, and also offering jobs for people that don't require college degrees, right? And also saying, you don't need college. I didn't have a college degree. Yeah, but your parents were millionaires.
Yeah.
You've had a great education your entire life.
Yeah.
And like I said, you were reading these books when you were kind of in your teens or 20s that you said it was very anti-intellectual. And they were giving you advice and tips but like y'all come from like completely different backgrounds and all that stuff. So they also play a role, right?
Yeah.
These also play a role. Like, you don't need education.
Yeah.
Just get this job, right? Just get this job. Which is like it's like changing. They're changing like the value system in our society too.
Yeah.
What should we value, right? Not the kind of job that we have, but what kind of money that job could bring us, and we could get. And education is not important anymore. We don't need that.
That's true.
Why is it important? We want to get the 6-figure job. And I understand why they want the 6-figure job, because rent is wild. And because we have a housing affordability crisis, right?
That's true. And there's also two things that they're showcasing that is not important, which is education and healthcare. So it's like we're taking away from like these two things that are highly important that should be like in the forefront that will help any economy, and help any society. Most importantly, that's the two things that really help any community advance: education and healthcare. But those are the two things that are extremely expensive. Going to a private school, like if I want to go to NYU, it's going to cost me like at least $100,000 for me to get a PhD or a master's degree. That's wild. That's wild. It's like almost unattainable.
Mm-hmm.
We should be investing in people and people's education,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it comes to healthcare, it's super expensive,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could make something of yourself over here in the United States of America, but once you get sick, all that shit is gone.
Yeah. 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 I think about healthcare and how people. Yeah, like I do believe we should have like universal healthcare,
Me
right? Like
too.
I think a lot of it, and through my research on housing, I feel like a lot of people are socialized to believe that they're not deserving of these things as well.
Mm.
They're not deserving of these things because of maybe they're low income, maybe they have like low levels of education, so they feel like because I have this identity, because I've only attained this level of education, I'm not
I'm not
deserving of
deserving
these
of
things.
these things.
So therefore, they don't even expect anything more. And if you ask them, they want like that's not even within like their realm of possibility for them
Hmm.
because that idea is reinforced, right?
Yeah,
Especially in capitalism, you
yeah.
deserve what you get, right?
You
Because you're not
deserve.
working
Yeah, you
hard
have to
enough,
earn
right?
it. You have to earn it.
And I think like people have to sort of imagine more for themselves,
Mm.
right? Adrian Brown says like we're literally in an imagination battle in this world.
Mm. Oh, I like that.
We're in an
Imagination battle
That's
in
what the
this
world
world.
is an imagination battle. And whoever's imagination is more powerful, whatever platforms they're using to sort of like reinforce these imaginations, these narratives often prevails, right? And the more people you have subscribing to that imagination, the more you can have your way, right? The more you're going to sustain the system in which helps you sort of maintain your power.
Mm. It's crazy because we are people that we come from tribals with tribes and stuff like that. We
Mhm.
lived off the earth and stuff like that. You know, what we don't need all this extra shit. But we're living a livelihood that there's nowhere in the United States of America that you could live for free.
Mhm.
A land that was a free land.
Mhm.
Every land in this earth is free. It was there before
Yeah.
we got there, but now we
Yeah.
got to pay for it.
Now you have to commodify
Now,
it.
yeah, now you got to
It's
commodify.
commodified, right? If you think about, I love how you brought that up because like language and belief systems, like if you think about a lot of like indigenous native cultures, whether in Africa or even North America, the way they talk about land, they talk about land as like they kind of as a sibling or as like kin,
Yeah.
right? As an extension of them, right?
Mm.
But in Western societies, like as a result of colonization and in the US specifically, we sort of objectify these things, right? But why do we objectify land?
Mhm.
Why do we commodify it? Because then it's easier for us to extract it, right? And not really care what we do to it because it's not a thing, it's not a living thing, it's not part of us, it's external to us.
Mm.
And we also see it in our language,
Mhm.
right? How we refer to land, the languages, the words that we use to refer to land and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That like it's so insidious. Like this
Yeah.
way of thinking is so insidious, right? It's so insidious.
Yeah.
And it shapes our behaviors, everyday thinking, outlooks, and how we rationalize things.
I think we also like it's been so many years that this is how we are used to seeing things now
Mm-hmm.
that we don't see it differently anymore.
Mm.
All right. And we put so much value on certain things that we forgot about the value when it comes to community, when it comes to friendship, family. A lot of times we sold individuality so much so like that now people are so isolated. They have mental issues, right? People now are fighting to try to build some type of community
Mm.
because they don't have that anymore because of the lifestyle that we live, and everybody just subscribe to the same system.
Mm.
Baby, think about it. Like back then, we were tribal people. We'd go hunt, come back, do a little barbecue, dance some little merengue, and go to sleep in your hut.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? But we forgot about all of that.
I love how you mentioned that. And I was listening to a podcast recently that talks about like that this person was saying that she lives within like this threshold of memory where like her ancestors lie and her whatever lie, but there's this threshold of memory that exists
Mm-hmm.
where these systems of domination are trying to interrupt or kind of like make people forget about this memory, this threshold, right? And she kind of one point realized that I have power and agency to sort of reconnect or reweave my connection to these memories and to these ancestors and to these practices.
Mm.
And it takes a long time to realize that you could do that, and to realize like people didn't even know what their practices were before, right? There's that historical amnesia. Like, people didn't even know what people don't. They don't know.
No,
They don't know history, right? And all
Yeah.
that stuff. They don't even know where they come from. They don't know who their people are. It's wild, and it's and there's like a grief there because of that. It's a grief there if you don't know who you are. You don't know where your ancestors come from. You're robbed of that.
Of that, yeah.
But there's also still an ability for you to reconnect and reweave those connections. And that's what we could do, right? That's the least we could do, right? A lot of it has to do reading your own history, reading about this, and doing small things like
Yeah.
instead of like maybe going out to dance merengue with your
Yeah,
friends.
I think it's very
potlucks.
I think it's very important for people to question everything. Why is there a hierarchy? Why certain people? Why you believe certain people should be in a certain position, and what makes them better than us? All right, just because somebody's rich, they're more social. They're better than me, right? Because they have a better social status, and what the social status is because they got more money or they have positions of power. I'm like, I think people really need to start asking themselves those questions. And you deserve more. You should love yourself more. Love the people around you. Create more community. Say hi to your friends. We have an epidemic of mental health issues because of shit like this. Us men, we're mental health November. Men's mental health. There's a reason why a lot of men are committing suicide. You know why? Because we got that societal pressure of like, yo, we got to make this money. And a lot of times, even to be in a relationship, bro, you need to make bread to be in a relationship. And shout out to all those men that got kids.
Yeah.
They got family. They got to hold down the whole thing.
Yeah. And who are active and present in their kids and families' lives.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's not easy for them.
Yeah.
And it's also single mothers. Like, it's not easy for them either, where they got to figure this thing out with their child and try to even make it. And they're trying to make it, but they don't even know what make it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I say with the men stuff, it's also up to men to sort of hold other men accountable and also give other men permission to just be themselves and to not sort of like feel like they need to fulfill all these different societal standards at the expense of their mental health, right? And it goes back to scripts. Oftentimes, like we follow these scripts to like our own death, to our own detriment. And because we don't really think about them as scripts, you think about them as things we just need to do. And oftentimes, like these scripts do like benefit men in many cases. It kind of sustains or maintains the power that we have over women and society.
Yeah.
And they kind of subconsciously kind of like reinforce it because they know this.
Yeah.
But I also think it is important for other men to kind of invite men to not do that and to be okay to sort of like just like push the boundaries or like to press on the boundaries of what's possible or what they think is possible for what men could be and what men could do. And the root of it is patriarchy. Right? I think we have to sort of like really question what patriarchy is and how patriarchy like motivates our behaviors and our thinking and justifications. And I think people just like, another thing that people are reluctant to see is that they think that it's just natural. It's just how humans are.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't think it's impossible for us to change that. Because it's just natural, it's always going to happen. No, it's something that we socially constructed and we reinforce through norms, laws, rules, family, institutions, and all these different things.
And
it's
religion.
so insidious. It's religion. And
It is intersectional, right?
Yeah, it's intersectional.
So it's like, okay, you got the patriarchy, you got the religion with religion, and they commingle capitalism.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So there's a commingling of a lot of things.
Yes.
All at once.
And it's so insidious that makes it look natural. And that's why it's dangerous.
It's normalized. That's what it is. We wake up in the morning, we don't question it anymore because that's just the way the world works.
So there's like this. I used to teach this class. I go to UC Berkeley. That's where my school's at, and I taught undergrads. And we used to talk to undergrads about like theory and paradigms. Oftentimes, people sort of operate through paradigms. Paradigms essentially like things that sort of inform their view of the world. Think about like a filter, like an Instagram filter. Like that's kind of a paradigm that sort of filters how you view the world. And we don't know that we're operating through a filter.
No.
Because it's so normalized. It's like a fish in water. Fish don't know they freaking in water. They don't know they swimming. They just like, I'm with my homies.
Yeah.
Like, this is just what it is. What you talking about? You going, that's too deep. It's too deep.
It's true.
You're doing too much, you're doing the most, right? And it's hard. It's hard to realize, okay, actually, I'm operating within a paradigm. Actually, I am in water because like it's not it's so insidious, right?
Yeah, they don't think that there's a world out there. There's a whole world out there. There's buildings out there. And stuff like that. Somebody's eating McDonald's somewhere. And there's one of your buddy fish is a fish fillet.
Right.
They just know that these people keep coming from time to time and getting us. I don't know where they're going. That's heaven.
Things about like the SpongeBob
movie. Imagina que they're down there and the fish is like, you know what? That's heaven out there. He got, what happened to Johnny? He got raptured.
And maybe heaven is on the other side. People are too afraid to take that leap, right? Or to even question because of the belonging and the sense of security they feel with belonging and all those different things. And I don't say this, but also some people, they know and they understand they're greedy and selfish and they want to still benefit from the system and they want to be the next billionaire.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, I want to thank you for coming, bro. Like, I knew this was going to be a great conversation, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation as well, bro. Like, you know, I want to keep you coming.
Yeah.
You know, and I want you to keep coming.
Permanent position.
Especially, you know, and congratulations on everything you're doing. To see a man of color, my people, Dominican man, you know, getting their PhD, because not a lot of us are doing that. Right. And we're seeing a major disparity within men and women, Latino men and women, even getting the PhD, even within our community. So I think it's very important. You are showing an example to the rest of us that this is very important and we need to do this. He even influenced me. I'm going to go out there and try to get myself a master's and a PhD because
let's do it.
It's like, why can't I? Because there's so many years I felt like I couldn't do something like that.
I love that. And also, you don't have to get a PhD MB to like sort of like learn and grow and educate yourself. But that's one pathway, but it's not the only.
Get your damn PhD. Fuck that. Yo, leave in the comments. Tell me what you think about this episode. What else you want to... join the conversation. Give me a like. Subscribe. I love you. I'm going to see you next Wednesday. Lo quiero mucho. Adiós.